As we've seen many times, this show builds off actual stories and legends from around the world, but it tends to put its own spin on them. Today is no exception.
It was Goethe who said we love girls for what they are. Well, even the great Goethe could have learned something from the tale that took place on the campus of Illinois State Tech. May 10th, 1102, Don Weiner, the school's star running back and candidate for All-American, was out for a drive.
He just forgot how everything on his car works because all his mind can focus on is how his various body parts work. She doesn't talk much, but her intention is clear. I have a feeling that creature's look is taken directly from this statue created in 1889 by French sculptor Rodin. Kolchak won't learn it until much later in the episode, but she's a succubus. Monsters of this type appeared in ancient Buddhist and pre-Islam Arabic literature, but the most detailed descriptions come from Jewish mysticism. In that system, Adam's first wife Lilith became the first succubus, and from there things get a little complicated depending on whose account you read. But as I said, this show puts its own spin on things. The one consistent thing about succubi in the literature is they come to men in dreams. The young man would wake up feeling as though something had been sitting on his chest all night and his energy would be utterly drained. She would come back night after night until she finally drained him dry and he died. Succubi did this because they needed semen to live, but rather than just get it the fun way, they would take it by force. But again, it all happened while the man was asleep and dreaming. A waking encounter like what we just saw never happened in the literature as far as I've been able to find.
May 11th, 10 a.m. I wasn't too choked up with Vincenzo sending me to an alderman's press conference, so when I caught the police report of 2 bodies being found on the IST campus lake, it gave me an excuse. That and running out of gas, which I didn't plan.
Well, see, next time if you plan to run out of gas, it'll go a lot better. He manages to slip past all the cops without being noticed.
No signs of trauma on either one of them. No address on the girl. But we know she was a hype. Look at the spike tracks on her arm.
He called her a hype. I thought that term went out with the 50s. It's short for hypodermic user, which is to say heroin addict. I'm not sure why the coroner is using archaic language. Addicts themselves still call the drug junk, and those who have descended so deeply into addiction they don't care about anything anymore except getting that next fix, they call junkies. In the heroin-using community, it's a slur. Most users call themselves addicts. Now, every time I've heard someone call themselves that, I've taken a moment to correct them. No, you're not an addict. You are a person with an addiction that doesn't make you any less a person deserving of basic human needs and basic human kindness. I once sat on the ground, a young woman's head resting in my lap while I tried to help her eat something. She was trembling so badly she couldn't hold anything and couldn't even sit up. She was so dope sick she could barely talk. Thing was, she had a fully loaded syringe right next to her. All she had to do was use it and the pain would stop. She absolutely would not do it in front of me. Honestly, it wouldn't have bothered me, but it was critically important to her. She said, and I quote, "It's respect. I respect you too much to do it because you don't look at me like I'm dirt." To too many people, that's what she is. Just another hopeless hype, as our man puts it. Do not be one of those people. When you see her or anyone else strung out and living on the street, see a person. Look upon them as a human being, and then ask yourself how you would want people to look at you if you were in that situation. And it's a valid question because virtually all of us live from one paycheck to the next, and if one or two didn't happen, that would be us on the street, vulnerable to the influences that can help kill the pain. I know that coroner is doing his job and he has to report things dispassionately, but something in the way he said that set my teeth on edge.
That look on Reiner's face.
Yeah, I know. Just like that other student we found Thursday. Burdett. Like he was scared to death.
Yeah, we're gonna have to keep that under wraps before somebody blows it up into another Hindenburg disaster.
Hello, Mad Dog. This will be Keenan Wynn's second and final appearance as the captain, and as usual, he lives up to his nickname.
Don't worry. Reports got Burdett dead of natural causes. Heart attack. Now this kid, too?
Well, there's no law against dropping dead.
Captain, what do you think's going on?
Excuse me, Captain.
How long have you been here?
Thank you so much, young lady. It was nice of you to draw all that attention. Mad Dog immediately starts screaming at Carl and ignoring the girl.
You put that on the wire and I'll have you 86 permanently.
I was just passing through.
Captain, I'm Rosalind Winters.
Just a minute. You want to take another trip in the police car, Kolchak?
I'm Rosalind Winters.
Just hush up. Will you just shut up? I take it the department has a formal writ to suppress, huh? Who signed it? Who issued it, huh? Who?
I'm Rosalind Winters, reporter for the Blue Monitor.
The blue what?
The Blue Monitor, the campus weekly. Do you have a comment to make?
Well?
Yeah, but you couldn't print it.
Ah!
Come on, Mike. Come on.
Much like Kolchak, she refuses to be ignored.
Excuse me.
Bluebird.
Blue Monitor.
Yeah, Blue Monitor,
Yeah.
yeah. Where's the nearest gas station?
About a mile that way.
About a mile that way. You wouldn't happen to have a set of wheels, would you?
Sure, come on.
Yeah.
Not what he had in mind, but beggars can't be choosers, as they say.
You know, I've been thinking, Kolchak. Now, you and I could work together on this story because I know this campus inside out.
Sorry, I always work alone.
Work alone, walk alone.
Well, now, wait a minute. Let's talk. Yeah, we can talk in the cafeteria next week.
Talk or walk, Kolchak.
Well, all right. We'll talk. But you talk first, right? I mean, I'm new around here. You're supposed to know this campus backwards.
Something that Mad Dog hasn't let slip yet is the first guy was also found with a dead girl.
I didn't hear that.
Well, a good reporter has her contacts.
Who was the girl? Where was she from? What'd she die of?
I'm working on that.
Well, how about some facts and names, dates? Was she dressed? Was she nude? Was she half nude? What?
I don't know.
But what about, what's his name? Burdett and Reiner. Would they have any previous history of heart attack?
I don't know.
It just happened, and we saw the way Mad Dog is trying to keep a lid on it. She needs time to pursue the investigation, same as Carl always does. But as we know, Carl Kolchak has one set of principles for himself and a different set for everybody else.
What kind of reporter are you?
I said I was working on it.
Well, when you finish working on it and you get some facts, let me know.
Some collaboration.
Reporter? Why don't you go... Hey, wait a minute.
And because he has that double standard so firmly cemented in his head, he genuinely doesn't understand why she did that. It's one of the big mysteries about this show because Carl is several things that I don't say on this channel. And yet we always find ourselves rooting for him because as terrible and obnoxious as he is, at least the only people he sucks the life out of are police captains. And Tony.
10:25. Craig Donnelly and Betty Walker arrived at Donnelly's apartment after dinner and a few too many glasses of champagne. Wait right here, okay? I'll open the door. The bubbly had tasted good, but for Betty Walker it might as well have been strychnine. Here we go.
Craig checks for a pulse and she doesn't have any. There's a payphone at the top of the stairs and he runs up to call an ambulance. Tell the ambulance to bring lots of air freshener. Let's see where Betty went.
Same night, 11 p.m. The on-campus living quarters of archaeology professor C. Evans Spate. Spate was a recipient of a coveted Pace Institute grant, and his student assistant, Mark Hansen, were attempting to discover the meaning in a piece of clay some 10,000 years old.
Mark's a little out of it. He's still thinking about his friend dying. He'll go home while the professor writes death on a big photo of that tablet.
Yes?
Hi. You don't know me, but I wanted to meet you, and I didn't know anyone to introduce us. So, am I interrupting anything?
No, not at all. Come on in.
It's time for someone to call Mad Dog again.
Now, what time did you see the girl come into this room?
It was about 11:30. Yeah, the news was just off the air.
You never saw her before, huh?
Now, chicks float in and out of this building like pollen. But her I'd remember, but I don't.
Her name was Betty Walker. Does that ring a bell?
Nope.
No, but there's a guy off that-a-way who's wondering what happened to her corpse. The coroner says she has a big bump on the back of her head that is most likely the cause of death. In 1974, forensics hadn't advanced to the point where he can point a doohickey at the contusion and tell it was made from falling down a flight of stairs. Carl is getting all this on tape, and they don't know it.
Kolchak!
I'm Rosalind Winters, reporter for...
I know who you are!
Cisco, you can't have that cassette.
You
can't have that
can't
cassette.
interfere with the law!
You can't do that. And that's an abridgment of the First and the Fourth Amendment.
You can't a word out of you! And I will book you on illegal entry. Now you get out of
I'm
here!
gonna bring you up on charge of
Take
ACLU.
Tano with you! Go, Tano!
Suppression of the press.
Shut up!
Now they know. So far, she's more help than anybody could possibly want. And Kolchak is right, it's illegal for him to take that tape, but which of the people in this room is going to help him enforce that?
Anyone?
May 11th, 12:15 p.m. My first stop had been Betty Walker's apartment. Number 2 was an address furnished me by Betty's roommate, the apartment of Craig H. Donnelly.
So then what happened?
Well, I ran up to that phone, called for an ambulance. When I came back down, she was gone.
Well, maybe she was still conscious.
I spent 3 years in Vietnam. I know when someone's dead.
Everybody's first reaction to a story like his is always, you must have been mistaken. Because in their worldview, there aren't too many other options.
And Betty was dead. How could she just disappear like that?
Well, maybe somebody carted her off.
What, in 30, 40 seconds? No way. Besides, this place was quiet, deserted. All I know is I'll never forget seeing her gone. And that smell.
What smell?
You ever been around a war, Kolchak?
Yeah, a couple of them.
Well, maybe you'll know what I'm talking about. It smells like death.
He knows that odor well. He smelled it on more than one monster. The thing is, as Craig said, he was up on the landing for less than 30 seconds. It takes time for that smell to develop as the bacteria go to work. No way it comes on that quick and that strong. Of course, depending on what she ate, I suppose she could have backfired on the way down, and that's what he smelled, but that seems like a bit of a stretch. But even if he was wrong, it begs the question of why she wandered to a complete stranger's room and they both ended up dead. Carl needs a way to dig up more information. He sneaks an official-looking paper off the bulletin board and heads to the registrar's office.
Good afternoon.
Wait your turn, please. May I help you?
Yeah, my name's Kolchak. I'm with Internal Affairs. I've come for those records.
What records?
What do you mean, what records? You mean to tell me that PR didn't contact you through IA?
What's the matter? Are you new here or something? PR never goes through IA.
What?
Sure, PR can go to GS and then go through IA, but never directly.
Well, that's
My word,
exactly
never
what
directly.
I meant. Now,
Remember when the Batman show tried to make Julie Newmar look frumpy? Yeah, it doesn't work any better on Carolyn Jones than it did on Ms. Newmar. This lady could make anything look sexy. I suspect she had fun trying not to, though.
Security, I thought you said IA.
well, as far as anybody else is concerned around here, I am IA.
That? Nobody goes in there.
All right.
Now, you just fill out this form, nice and legibly.
Okay.
No. I said legibly.
That counts me out. There's a reason I type everything or say it into my phone. I can actually read it later.
K-O-L-A-A-K. Good?
Good.
Forms 22.
It's polite of him to use his real name so the police know who did this when they investigate later.
They bombed in London's theater district. 9 letters.
I thought you said crossword puzzles were for fools.
Well, I do have to check on people's work around here, don't I? Even though it's very boring. They bombed in London's theater district. Let's see. Oh, the Old Vic Company, something like that.
Luftwaffe.
Right.
It's a pun, Tony. The theme of the puzzle is World War II. Miss Emily really does do everything around here. The mail, advice column, research, building the crossword. Tony could fire Kolchak and Updike, and Emily would keep the place going so nobody would notice.
Tony, did you know that Don Reiner, the All-American prospect from Tech, was found dead of a heart attack at age 20?
Yes, I did. I don't want to hear anything more about it. I read about it.
You already know about it, then?
Yeah, with the girl and everything, right? It's tragic. It's very tragic.
Yeah.
Though that kid could really find a hole and go right through the light.
Yeah, but the girl's the interesting part, Tony. You see, her name was Marlene Franks. She was a junkie. She died from an overdose.
I don't want to hear about it.
8 hours before Don Reiner died. Now, last week, Peter Burdett, another healthy student, was found dead in the arms of a girl, but she'd been dead from a brain aneurysm. Huh? Now, they didn't release that, Tony.
I wonder why. You can see the headlines. Latest campus fad, carrying corpses around then dying. Campus cult killing co-eds. And from the tabloids, dead women stalk top athletes for murder rituals. That'll bring the philanthropists and other donors running.
Well, no wonder. In the 60s, the kids used to bust windows and pelt Marine recruiters with rotten fruit. Now, that was bad enough. But today, it seems that every school is an extension campus of Weirdsville University.
No, Tony.
It's days like this that make me wish I'd stuck to playing the drums.
Another little tidbit about Tony. It won't go anywhere, but it's human interest. And right now, he's a human who isn't interested in the rest of it. Kolchak tries to explain about Mark, the professor, and the tablet. They recently did a feature on the man who found it because after he found it, he went insane. Kolchak tries to give more detail, and Tony says no.
Now, look, I've considered a shift in policy.
A shift?
Why should we always accentuate the gruesome and the sensationalism? I think we might be very happy and probably take a chunk out of our competition if we really tried to seek out the good news.
Good news?
It's been tried multiple times. In the 70s, there was one trying to make a go of it around the time this aired. It didn't. In the digital age, there are multiple websites that only do good news, but the fact is, bad news sells because it's more interesting. The day after the Titanic sank, headlines all over the world screamed about it. Do we really think headlines like, Titanic arrives safely in New York, all passengers well, would have made as much noise? Hardly. Bad news is more interesting because an event like the unsinkable ship failing its first time out is unexpected, and that makes it catch our attention. Consider, man drives to grocery store, drives home again without incident. Exciting, huh? Man drives to grocery store, car is hit by train on his way home. Not something we usually see coming, so now we want to know who, where, how, and especially why. It's how our brains are wired, so I recommend that Tony just go with it.
Carl, wrap up the story you're working on. Bring it to an upbeat conclusion. Then find out what and who was responsible for the death of those fine American young boys. Understand that? And then tell the public that the campuses are all cleaned up. And then I'm going to find an assignment for you that's going to be uplifting and happy.
Upbeat, happy.
Yeah, what would you say to a feature series about the wit and humor of Chicago? Bone-tickling anecdotes of the city's history.
You didn't have to go to the desert.
And I think that...
And if Tony can't just go with it, Carl will just go.
We're on a grant from Amerigo Science Institute to translate this tablet. Is that correct?
Yes. Whitehead, as you know, stumbled over this in the lower valley between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers of Iraq.
Yes, the Mesopotamian Empire.
At first, this tablet was thought to be just a remnant of the Dead Sea finds, but these symbols are definitely Sumerian.
I did a little comparing, and I did find a couple of symbols that look like archaic Sumerian characters. Before the Sumerians adopted the Akkadian style of cuneiform writing, they used a quasi-pictographic script like this. At last count, it had something like 468 characters. I didn't try to compare them all. I'll take his word for it.
Now, as you can see also, it's only about a quarter of the way complete, but it seems to be some sort of religious rite or maybe even a form of recipe.
Recipe, yes, I can see that, yes. I noticed the symbol for mint that you've so translated so very well down here. Yes, it's probably some preparation for lamb.
Except that word means minting precious metals, not a gum flavoring.
You don't really work for the Archaeological Quarterly, do you?
Well, yes, of course, certainly I do. Yeah.
Go ahead. He can tell you all about how he thinks he runs the place.
Yes. Part-time.
What occupies you full-time?
Independent news service?
Yeah, right. I'd like you to leave, Mr. Kolchak. You can be sure that I'll be talking to your editor about this little charade.
Oh, good. He's in the mood for some bone-tickling anecdotes. But let me bring up something to your attention that's not so funny. According to student records, not only did the late Mark Hansen work for you, but Peter Burdett was in a class that you teach.
And the late Don Reiner was one of Mark's best friends. The police have already talked to me about that coincidence. There wasn't much I could offer them.
That's not surprising. Mad Dog has a bad habit of asking the wrong questions.
Maybe you could offer me something on another coincidence.
Would you get up out of that chair, please?
The bad luck that the Whitehead expedition appeared to be plagued with, it seems that his young assistant dropped dead of a heart attack, too.
I can't explain that. I'm an archaeologist, not a cardiologist. Would you please leave?
Well, I can't. You see, the door's locked.
Oh, don't worry. He's not going to publish it and steal your thunder. He's going to try and decipher it himself, or at least make sense of what you've done so far.
May 12th, 5:45 p.m. Maria Vanegas, 20, entertainer in an after-hours cafe, was perpetually tired from the hours she kept. When she arrived home early that morning, she'd put on some coffee, stretched out to rest her eyes, and waited for the gas burner to get the coffee good and hot. The coffee never got hot, and Maria grew very, very cold.
The building manager smells the gas and lets herself in, but it's too late.
¡Carlos! ¡Carlos, ven pronto! ¡Carlos! 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 ¡Carlos, ven pronto! María está muerta, ven pronto. ¡Ven pronto! ¡Ay! ¡No! ¡Ay, qué olor! No.
Dead or not, she was late for work. And since you were blocking the door...
Asmodeus, chief of demons, creator of all lesser demons, both male and female.
Hey, I can use that.
Yes.
How do you spell this? How do you spell his name, Miss Asmo? What did...
Oh, Asmodeus. Yeah, Asmodeus. A-S-M-O-D-E-U-S. Asmodeus. 8 letters, honey.
Tony's campaign to print good news is going well, I see.
8 letters, 8 letters. Chief of Demons.
That's right, chief of demons. Like their creator, Asmodeus, demons can take on many guises, but are often pictured as horrible creatures accompanied by a foul stench, which they give off at moments of diabolic excitement or activity. A stench of corruption, rot, and noxious brimstone.
Brimstone? Oh, great, I can use this.
By the way, the happy-go-lucky theme of this week's crossword is evil creatures.
Oh, it's not listen up, everybody. Listen up. I just dropped my idea in the well, and you should have heard the splash it made with New York. From now on, we're going to make our best effort to write our stories with dignity, grace, and humor. And we are going to devote as much time as we can to finding stories that are dignified and graceful and humorous in the main.
Ha! I am on you. Persian for Iblis, the devil, the prince of fiends.
But does he rule his fiends with dignity, grace, and humor? As usual, he didn't hear a word Tony said. He's been studying Professor Spade's translation.
The prince of fiends decrees, the chief of demons executes. No, listen to this, Tony. Listen. Death shall reside throughout someone something. See, I can't translate that. I haven't been translated yet. Someone, she shall have reign. See, Tony?
Carl, I don't care what the tablet actually is, whether it's an ancient guest record at the Nebuchadnezzar Motel or what.
Nebuchadnezzar.
How is this drivel going to help you write up your story and complete it about these terrible deaths?
Well, but it says that she shall have reign, Tony. Now, who is she?
Tony still doesn't want to know the answer unless it ends in a dignified punchline. Then a call comes over the police radio they're not supposed to have.
No sign of deceased. Please contact Homicide Unit Baker 80. Repeat. Unit Charlie Delta 4, we've got an accidental death at 404th North Von Steuben. No sign of deceased. Please contact Homicide Unit Baker 80.
Did you hear that, huh, Tony? Did you hear that? Another vanishing corpse. I tell you, we're in luck. It's terrific. Another vanishing corpse.
Another vanishing corpse, and he gets excited. Another vanishing corpse. That's all New York has to hear about, another vanishing corpse.
If Tony doesn't think a vanishing corpse is news, maybe he should go back to playing drums.
All right, the girl was probably still alive, and you came in, you opened the window, and the air revived her, and she got up and she walked away.
No, senor. I have worked in a hospital for 10 years now. I know the dead when I see them.
Is this the lady, ma'am?
Yes, that is Maria.
There ought to be a law that only police can have police radios.
Right, your congressman. Did you smell something rotten when you came
Well,
in?
of course she did. She smelled gas.
No, senor, not gas. It was horrible.
Yeah, not pleasant like that stuff they put in natural gas to make it smell like roses.
Uh-huh.
What does the stink have to do with it?
Well, I don't know yet. I'm not sure. But do you have an answer as to why 3 young males should drop dead from coronaries?
Yeah. You remember the Thomasita Bachta murders?
Yeah.
Remember how we all thought they were heart attacks?
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years later, it was proven there was a massive overdose of cyanide delivered at close range.
So just how much cyanide was in the bodies, Captain? Who delivered it and why? That's so lame it needs a pair of crutches.
Are you telling me that the mob killed these kids, Murder Incorporated goes to college, huh? Come on. What about the girls?
Well, obviously a psychotic involved.
Oh, so now it's no longer Murder Incorporated. It's a lunatic. All right, well, let's just follow this thing through. This lunatic follows Murder Incorporated around the campus, and then whenever they give a kid a snoot full of cyanide, this loony, puts a girl's corpse down next to the body so it doesn't get lonesome.
Carstairs, will you get this man out of here? Go.
Some guys just don't appreciate it when you summarize what they said, especially when it's that accurate. Meanwhile, the lovely Maria has found herself a fella. He happens to be Professor Spate's new assistant.
Get a copy of Whitehead's Persia. Michael, where are your manners? Who is this incredibly beautiful creature?
I just met her at the bookstore. She's really something, isn't she?
Maria? What? Please, come in.
Professor, this is Maria Venegas.
Well, my pleasure.
Look, I know the mustache and bandana look doesn't work, but it's not that funny. Okay, maybe it is that funny. Michael is not happy.
Why'd you have to go and do something like that? Like he's a freak or something?
I'm sorry, Michael.
You're sorry.
I'm sorry. Michael!
Michael is enough of a hunk that there are plenty of girls out there he can hang with that won't suddenly go bananas in front of strangers. The professor is still trying to figure out what just happened.
You again.
And contrary to what you may suspect, that's not him you're smelling.
Did you see a girl out here?
No, I did not.
Well, I saw her. Yeah, she was standing right out there.
This is Evan Spate. Would you please send a security car to my home? I have a trespass.
Girl with the
Thank
name
you.
of Maria Vanegas. She was dead.
A dead girl?
Yeah.
Dead girl. How have you managed to survive in the news business being such an imbecile?
Your yard smelled bad enough to send rats back to Detroit.
My dog, King Tut, sometimes brings home dead prey.
Yeah, well, did your dog also bring home demons?
Does your prattle never end?
His succubus, that's new. What is a succubus, huh?
I explained that at the beginning of the review, Carl. Clearly, you weren't listening as usual. He'll have to track down another professor in a more obscure department to get his answers.
I was aware the Whitehead tablet was on campus, but I didn't know it was the same as a Pigafetta tablet. And this would seem to confirm it.
Pigafetta tablet?
Pigafetta, an Italian traveler of the 1500s. He mentions a fabled tablet of the Mesopotamian Empire, presided over, so they said, by a succubus.
With legends like this, it's pointless to ask what's so special about this tablet that a succubus is guarding it.
Of course, that tablet was lost a long time ago. However, it would appear that Whitehead found the tablet. It's all here in these books. The long, dark legend of death surrounding the tablet.
The old stories said the only way to get rid of the succubus is to destroy the tablet. The archaeological community will be at his heels like a pack of wolves, but if it has to be done, it has to be done. With Rosalind's help, he locates the Michael he saw leaving Spate's place. Let's see if he's still alive.
Mike? Will you forgive me? I do crazy things sometimes.
Yeah, we all do crazy things. I shouldn't have got so frosted, I guess.
He's right. When she's done, he'll be freeze-dried. Preserves a lot more flavor.
Put that down.
You're not mad.
Anger is counterproductive.
Get out of my way.
You put a scratch on this and I'll see that you go to prison. You and your news service will be ruined.
Your new assistant, Michael Thompson, has a succubus in his back because of this thing. He may be dead already.
He's not dead, but he's starting to think he may be in heaven.
Will you hold me?
You'd destroy this piece of antiquity for some stupid, idiotic fairy tale.
It's not a fairy tale. You know that as well as I do. You've known it all along. Now get out of my way! Ow! No! Get out! Beat it!
Now he's wondering if he made a wrong turn and wound up in the other place. Suddenly, it's poor Maria lying there. The succubus has business elsewhere. I'm sure she'll be after that chair next, so you guard it good, Professor. Oh, good, the chair's okay. We were worried there for a moment, but our brave little archaeologist came through. Now, I believe you said something about a lawsuit, right? There's no evidence left, so as usual, he can't print the story. The professor sure isn't talking. Mike changed his name, moved to Sedona, and wrote The Joy of Celibacy. It was a bestseller among succubus survivors. In the heroin, I could say heroin. Addicts themselves, addicts, what's an addict? Grocery store, crap.